Hello, everyone. It's Thursday, January the 12th. As I promised you, this is going to be a new briefing format, from a standpoint of what we're going to call it is the Justice Administration Update Briefing. And we're going to have guests that are going to join us today, our Secretary of Revenue, Dave Hardy, and our new Secretary of Commerce, James Bailey, are with us, and we're going to try to cover a lot of different stuff. You'll notice that I am not doing the traditional stuff in regard to COVID. You know, from a standpoint of monitoring, we'll surely monitor. We won't go through and read the names of the folks that we've lost. I remind you over and over and over that COVID is still with us, and absolutely you should get your booster shots. You should consider getting vaccinated and everything if you haven't. I am totally respectful of absolutely your freedoms and your wishes. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart and everything. I do believe that absolutely, that this is an extremely contagious variant that we have now, and its capability of spreading is very, very significant. And if that be the case, your likelihood, if you're not vaccinated, of getting COVID is pretty daggum high. From the standpoint of staying out of the hospital or death, without any question, if you're vaccinated or boosted, your chances are significantly reduced. With all that being said, we also have RSV and flu to contend with. You got your flu vaccines out there. I encourage you to get those shots. But with all that being said, we're going to move on. We're going to have a different format. We're going to welcome all kinds of questions and everything and wrap-ups from our secretaries or whomever is in the news. I want to mention, Chelsea Ruby just real quick, our Secretary of Tourism. Chelsea's right on the verge of having a baby, maybe having a baby. The baby may be here right now. If not, this is going to happen in the next couple of days, and we welcome a new grandbaby or baby rather to the Ruby family, and Steve and Chelsea are just absolutely just the greatest of the greatest, and they've got Caroline and Robert right now and one more on the way. So that's really good stuff, and we congratulate them. Last night, I gave my 7th State of the State. It's hard to believe, to tell you the truth. I've only got one more to give. And it's been an honor beyond belief being your governor, and I promise you I'll run through the finish line and continue to try to do any and everything I can possibly do, and I'll do it every day for the rest of my life. I won't go away, from the standpoint of just going off and sitting on a log somewhere. I think really that there's an awful good chance that you may see me in Washington, but if you don't see me in Washington, I'll surely be in my house and trying to help in any way I possibly can always. The State of the State, we did a lot of neat stuff last night. We started an award, that really is for all of our businesses all across the state, whether you've been in business for 150 years or you've been in business, or you're just thinking about it tomorrow and everything. But we created the Business Knights of West Virginia. And with all that being said, you'll receive a certificate and everything that will recognize you for the great work that you're doing now. We inducted into that last night, a new class, with, I think there was about a dozen folks and everything that were with us. And there was, and this is an amazing number, but I think there was 29 companies that absolutely invested well in excess of $6 billion in West Virginia last year, creating 3,300 new jobs and preserving 3,100 existing jobs. It's amazing what's going on. We also brought in, the two different other companies. There was a company TCL and another company CMI2, and so with all that being said, we're so blessed to have these great companies. Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies that are coming to West Virginia. It's great, it's very exciting, and it's really, really good stuff. We stepped back and did something last night for our retirees. The people, you know, in excess of 70 years of age that have been with us for 25 years, it seemed like little or nothing what we did, but we increased the minimum amount of dollars that they could be getting on a monthly basis. And we said we were going to do a one-time, or I offered up for the legislature to approve a one-time dollar number of $1,500 going to them to help out with this inflation stuff and prices of groceries and on and on and on. And we also, you know, celebrated, and I say this, you know, very concretely. You know, we celebrated life. We celebrated a reversal by the United States Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade, and we celebrated the fact that we are going to send up a bill that's proposing that we put $1 million into a fund for our crisis pregnancy centers, and to be able to help our mothers, you know, our mothers to be, and I just think that's just more good sense. You know, in addition to that, we surely put $1 million back into our food banks, but we did one other thing, and I did this, you know, in honor of my uncle that we just lost about 6 months ago. His name was Posey Perry. I called him Pose all the time. But absolutely, he lived in Man, West Virginia, and his wife Sid still lives today. But we lost him, I think, at the age of 94, and I did the eulogy at the funeral, and you know, a man that impacted so many. Christian man beyond belief. Good, good man. Retired coal miner, worked his life in the coal mines, and then absolutely, what did he do? He went to a food bank every day. He worked really, really, really hard for people that were hungry. So we established last night, I offered up for the legislature to consider, and I proposed that we establish a $10 million fund in the name of Posey Perry, and you know, absolutely to a fund that would be $10 million for emergency food to our pantries and our food banks, whatever it may be, infrastructure, you know, a refrigerator or whatever it may be, to help the hungry, and for once and for all, try with all in us that nobody go hungry in the state of West Virginia. Nobody. You know, we proposed to put $100 million more in PEIA. We don't have a total solution to PEIA, but we funded it in the past, and I hope we can fund it again with the surpluses that we have right now. And we created a fund that is a $5,000 attraction to be able to give veterans that want to move to West Virginia a one-time payment of $5,000 and everything. Well, you know, it's just kind of a trial balloon. We only put $500,000 in it to work on 100 veterans and see how it works. If it really works, we'll expand upon it. A lot of other really, really bold moves, but none to approach just what I'll tell you right now. At the end of the day, if we want growth in West Virginia, and we want people to come to West Virginia, we want people that can absolutely do more jobs. We want to continue to attract job opportunity. There's no question whatsoever that we want to continue to do that. And absolutely, we'll continue that in every way. Business after business after businesses are calling West Virginia because they get it now. They get how we're located within a rock's throw of 2/3 of the population. Have these incredible seasons that we have the unbelievable natural resources, and with all that, the greatest workers on the planet, craftsmen, good people. So the businesses are coming, but we got to have people. We got to have more kids in our schools. We got to have more people that are paying to be able to help with our highways. We've got to have workers in West Virginia. Well, how do you get them? All you got to do is go to any tax publication in the land and look at the states that are growing. The states that are growing are either on a pathway or an elimination of their personal income tax. They put more and more and more back into the economy from themselves. And then people want to come there and live. My gracious sakes of living, you think of the migration from the population centers of DC and Baltimore and Philadelphia and New York. They're coming right through West Virginia on the way to Tennessee, on the way to Texas, on the way to Florida. Literally, here we are with 4 of the most unbelievable seasons and job opportunities like crazy, and all the chances, everything. Greatly improved roads, working on education, on and on and on. They're driving right through us, heading to somewhere else. And we want to stop that. I proposed last night a 50% reduction in the personal income tax. 50% of what you're paying, absolutely eliminated, and eliminated as quickly as possible. 50% of your personal income tax. Think of the dollars you'll be putting in your pocket. Any of you will spend those dollars. That helps us too. The multiplier effect on those dollars is off the chart. I also did something that is absolutely unprecedented. Of our surpluses, as massive as they are, I said set aside $700 million of that $1.6 billion that we'll have in surplus. Set aside $700 million and create our own personal income tax rainy day fund. For governors that are in front of me, along the way, if we stub our toe just a little bit and we need to pull from the personal income tax rainy day fund just a little bit, it's there as a great insurance policy. We don't want to absolutely overspend ourselves and get ourselves in trouble. That's our insurance policy right there. From the standpoint of the ARPA dollars that we have remaining, our ARPA dollars that are sitting in a bucket, $677 million that have been there for a long time and everything. Really, economic development is continuing to knock it out of the park. Think about what I just have said. 29 companies that have brought 3,300 new jobs and retained 3,100 jobs in West Virginia. What's that going to blossom into? More and more and more opportunities around those companies that are coming right now. So I said, let's do this with ARPA. Let's take $500 million of the ARPA money, that's 677, and put it in a fund. Put it in a fund that's sitting there right now for economic development. And then take the remaining 177 and put it over in another bucket. And put it in a fund to where our people, or the people to be, can work all the matching federal dollars in every way, every program, every grant, and take that $177 million and parlay it into $1 billion or whatever we can do to do water and sewer projects all across West Virginia. We got a real plan. That's what you hired me for, to have a real plan. And we've come a long, 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 long ways. And things are absolutely cooking in West Virginia. We don't want to stub our toe. We don't want to let, personal emotions absolutely rule the day and say, I'm not going to do this, I'm not doing that because you are who you are, and that's the wrong thing for us to do. We absolutely need to be adults in the room, and do the right thing. I think Secretary Hardy's with us, and if we could bring him on now, he'll talk to us about a bunch of stuff. But Secretary Hardy, if you'd come on, that'd be really good.
Thank you, Governor. It's good to be here. And last night truly was a historic night for West Virginia, and we're in historic times. Our revenue streams, year to year, compared to a year ago, our revenue here at the Capitol has increased by 21.2%. We're looking at a projected fiscal year 23 surplus, which will be closed. We'll book that surplus by June 30th of this year, 2023, of about $1.7 billion. And we had left over from fiscal year 22 somewhere about $530 million. So when you have great revenue and good fiscal management like this, there's a window of opportunity to do extraordinary things. And the governor's proposal last night to cut the state income tax by 50% is truly an historic proposal. If you look around the country and you look at the states that don't have an income tax, and there are studies on this from the Tax Foundation, the states that don't have an income tax, states like Tennessee, Florida, Nevada, they are far and away outperforming the states that do have an income tax. You'll see that their populations are growing faster and their gross domestic economies are growing faster. So we are headed down a very important tool, and we are headed toward a very important goal that's going to help West Virginia grow economically and help West Virginia's population grow as well. This is going to put, the proposed income tax cuts are going to put a lot of money in West Virginians' pocket. If the legislature approves our 30% tax cut for calendar year 23, by June 30th alone, West Virginians will see a reduction in their income taxes of $163 million. In the fiscal year that starts July 1st of 2023 through June 30th of 2024, West Virginians are going to receive $1,085 million more in their pockets as a result of these proposed income tax hikes. And in the following fiscal year, it's $1,229 million. This is money that's going to go right back into our taxpayers' pockets, and it's going to help the economy and stimulate the economy here in West Virginia. We were careful. We were very careful with these financial projections. We made an assumption, and the governor agreed with the assumption, that we could possibly have a mild recession in calendar year 2024. We may not, but we assumed and calculated that in, and we also assumed that maybe that our energy prices, particularly our price of natural gas, might go down some in calendar year 24 and or 23. Despite all that, we still feel like that we can fund these tax cuts over the next 3 fiscal years out of our projected surplus. However, as the governor pointed out, to be very cautious and very careful and to be responsible stewards of the public's money and our state budget, we also proposed in the budget bill last night, the governor's budget bill, that we will set aside $700 million in a reserve fund that will be used to be sure, absolutely sure, that we have adequate personal income tax revenue going forward over the next 3 years. If these projections, and these are conservative projections, are right, we won't need that $700 million. It'll be used for something else, perhaps even used to fund another tax cut. But to be absolutely cautious, we proposed a set aside of $700 million as a reserve. And on top of that, in the governor's budget bill that we introduced last night, we only proposed, including this $700 million, a total of about $1.392 billion out of our projected $1.7 billion surplus. So we still have $300 to $400 million in addition to the $700 million that could be used to protect all of our revenue streams. So this is a very carefully thought out and cautious plan. I'm supposed to appear in front of the House of Delegates Finance Committee this afternoon to present it. Preliminary indications are very good and indicate that we will be well received when we present this afternoon. If this plan is passed by the legislature, West Virginia's top income tax rate, which is now 6.5%, will be reduced to 3.25% by calendar year 2025, 2 short years away. This will allow us, of course, to have a much more competitive state income tax rate. I'll give an example. Virginia has a state income tax rate now of 5.75. Maryland has a state income tax of 5.75. Kentucky is at 4.5. So, and Ohio's at 3.99, essentially 4. So we are going to be lower than all those states surrounding us, again, creating an incentive for people to move into West Virginia and avail themselves of the financial success and the proposal that we've had here. Last but not least, the legislature, the governor, and every one of his budget bills, every one of the governor's budget bills, and this is our 7th one, we have been very, very careful to control spending. And this year, other than the across-the-board 5% pay raise, an average 5% pay raise, which cost $115 million, some increases to PEIA, which were $59 million, and an increase of the school aid formula of $35 million, we have held the line on all the other state spending. So even though inflation has been running 7% in calendar year 22, the increase to our base budget this year in our budget bill is 5.35%, keeping with the trend that the governor has used since he's been here, since 2017, that we are not going to build the base budget. And when you don't build the base budget, good things happen, and good things are continuing to happen. So there's a lot of optimism here today, and I'm looking forward to presenting the budget bill and the state income tax cut bill to both the House Finance Committee and the Senate Finance Committee over the next week. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you so much, Secretary. And if I could just jump back to a couple of things real quick. You know, like I said last night, we introduced the West Virginia Business Nights, and now that's basically going to be for any and all companies all across this great state. If you're a barbershop, whatever it may be, you're an employer of thousands, whatever it may be, you know, we want you to absolutely join us in trying to send the word any and every way you can to help us recruit more and more and more businesses to come to this great state. Talk to people, help us, absolutely be our partners, and absolutely be great business nights of this great state. You know, because really at the end of the day, many of those folks that were there last night, they'll be providing jobs for our grandchildren. There is so much good that is coming out of this, of what is going on today in this great state. We don't want to get in our own way. We don't want to blow our own legs off. And that's why, you know, Secretary Hardy represented exactly my views, in that we want to be cautious. We want to be sure as best we possibly can in making these moves on the chessboard. But they're the right moves. And there's moves at the time that it's just going to perpetuate this state in a better and better and better way. After the State of the State last night, many of these folks came down to the governor's reception room, and we took pictures, and we talked and celebrated a little bit, you know, all the stuff that's going on. And there's a bunch of them right with Kathy and I right there, and those people, good gracious, they came from a long ways away to be with us last night, and gosh, what they're going to bring to this state is going to be really, really, really exciting. You know, today I'm also announcing that I am petitioning for Boone, Clay, Hampshire, Monroe, and Preston counties to be governor-designated hub zones. You know, these hub zones the hub zone stands for historically underutilized business zones. So these areas, you know, West Virginia is one of the first 10 states to petition for expanding access to this program through the governor's designated hub zones. And you know, I think we've got Secretary James Bailey, our new Secretary of Commerce, is going to talk to us about that and some other things. But this is just a way to absolutely, you know, get some real breaks, you know, from the federal government and everything, that gives us the opportunity to bring more and more and more business into areas that may have a harder time getting it. But James, if you could tell us a little bit more.
Thank you very much, Governor. The Hub Zone program is a tremendous opportunity for our small businesses throughout the state. It's a federal program administered by the Small Business Administration, and it's been in place for a number of years, and there are automatically designated areas throughout the state and throughout the country where if there's a business operating within those districts, then they qualify to receive bidding preferences and preferential designations from the federal government when they're issuing contracts. In the last year, in 2022, there were 59 small businesses that were taking advantage of these in the limited areas that they were already existing. But in those 59 small businesses, they were awarded almost $100 million in federal contracts. Now, what the governor has done here is tremendously increase the areas where small businesses can be to qualify for this program. So as he said, he petitioned to make governor-designated hub zones, which is currently, had not existed in the counties in Boone, Clay, Hampshire, Monroe, and Preston. So all of the small businesses in those 5 counties now will have access to this tremendous program where they hadn't before. And again, at the time when we submitted the petition, there were only 5 states who were participating in governor-designated hub zones. So the governor's really led in the forefront of this. And we're going to have, it's not a one and done thing. Every single year we're going to be able to re-examine the areas throughout the state that'll qualify for these designations. The automatically designated hub zones by the SBA are reevaluated in July of this year. And so after that, we'll be able to do another analysis to see how we can, keep expanding it and keep opening up opportunities for our small businesses elsewhere. These are areas, again, that have to meet certain demographics, certain data points for the governor to be able to designate. But one of the very cool things about them is, it's not just where the business is located, but also employees have to be residing in those. So it's a tremendous both asset to the business, but also an encouragement to make sure that we are providing economic development opportunities in the areas of the state that really need it. So it's a great opportunity. I want to thank the governor for his leadership on this, and also for the leadership that on the tax reform issues that Secretary Hardy was discussing. So those are no doubt contributing factors to something that I just recently saw that I want to congratulate you on, Governor. Right before we started, you may or I doubt you're even aware of it because it just released. Governor, you're officially, according to Morning Consult, the 5th most popular governor in the country. So these initiatives, of course, go to that. They're just 2 of the many examples of why we, the people agree with what we know, which is you're a tremendous asset to us. And I can't thank you enough for giving us the leadership and allowing us to explore things like these hub zones and the tax reform, because it's going to do a lot of good across the state.
Well, thank you so much, James. That's very, very kind words, and we're going to just keep on trying to do a lot of great work, and we're really excited to have a great, great, great Secretary of Commerce in James Bailey. So thank you, James. I've got some grant announcements, grant award announcements and everything. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, JJDP, Title II grant funds. I've awarded $403,890 in juvenile justice and delinquency prevention Title II grant funds to 8 projects, and these projects are the CASA of the Eastern Panhandle. I'm not going to read the amounts. Well, $63,000. Jefferson Day Report Center, $58,000. Liberia, $72,000. Marshall University Research Corporation, $50,000. Public Defender Services, $43,000. Team for West Virginia Children, $35,000. And the Voices for West Virginia, $39,000. And the West Virginia Coalition Against Domestic Violence, $41,000. There's a little bit more with all that, but roughly that's it. The West Virginia Rural Domestic Violence, Dating Violence, Sexual Assault, and Stalking Program grants, I've awarded $731,250 in West Virginia Rural Domestic Violence, Dating Violence, Sexual Violence, and Stalking funds, Stalking Program funds to West Virginia as the West Virginia Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And in addition to that, there is the West Virginia Sexual Assault Services Program, and I have awarded $547,000 and change in West Virginia Sexual Assault Services to the West Virginia Sexual Assault Services grants or program grants. And so all these grants will just absolutely help a lot of folks that are really hurting and everything, and hopefully get us on a path to be able to stop a lot of this stuff and everything that goes on. It's really tough, and a lot of victims that are really, really hurting. Last night our First Lady Kathy Justice, gave us some more information about communities and schools, and I want to announce that a few things here real quick, but Kathy announced yesterday and everything, or really today, that West Virginia Community and Schools Programs will be adding schools this month in 2 new counties and 2 participating counties across West Virginia, a total of 13 schools in Harrison, Kanawha, Mingo, and Webster counties. There in Harrison County, it's Nutter Fort Primary and Nutter Fort Intermediate and Norwood Elementary. In Webster County, it's Glade Elementary. In Kanawha County, it's Edgewood Elementary, Grandview Elementary, and Capitol High School. And in Mingo County, it's Birch, PK through 8, Gilbert, PK through 8, Kermit, PK through 8, Williamson, PK through 8, Matewan, PK through 8, and Mingo Central High School. There's so much about communities and schools that are really neat. But let me just say this real quick. I'm a coach. And I say that very proudly. I really think that if you're a public official and you have the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with children, please do it. Please do it. Sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it takes extra time. But my dad would always have told me, son, if you can't get it done in 24 hours a day, you're going to have to work nights. Well, I take a lot of wisdom from my dad, and I work. I work very hard, and I work all the time, and I love it. But I absolutely, being with kids will make you feel a sense of goodness that absolutely will touch your heart. You can absolutely change a life. And our kids need you today, and they need you very, very badly. So take heed to what I'm saying, because it's good stuff. Like I said, of all the programs that I've been around, and I've been around lots of them in our schools, I'll promise you today, without any question, Communities in Schools is the very best program that I have ever seen. You can't imagine the number of people that are absolutely getting touched and helped. Now I think it's 38 counties with this. It's even more, but all across our state, it's approaching with all the workers and all the students that they're touching and everything. It's like 91,000 plus kids. It's amazing. And it's done almost with no dollars. It's done absolutely on the budgets that really, in the size of the things we're talking about, is almost nothing. But in addition to that, Kathy came up with an idea, and calling it Friends with Paws and everything. And these are therapy dogs. And I read a couple instances last night. Like I said last night, I'm not good at some things. I'm not good at a lot of things probably, but some things that really are sentimental and touch my heart are stuff involving kids. And one of the things I read last night at the State of the State was about one of our children that that the notes that I had were, for all practical purposes, severely handicapped and very much nonverbal. One of the therapy dogs at a Pineville Elementary School, and I believe, and I could misspeak here, but I think the therapy dog's name is River. Well, River, they had gotten River, through Communities in Schools and all this great work, that Kathy's doing and lots and lots of folks in Communities in Schools. But anyway, it said that this child literally was there with the dog. And the child is becoming more verbal and everything. And they asked the child, they said, "What do you think about the dog?" And he looked at him, or she looked at him and said, "Best day ever." We have so much to be really thankful for. It's amazing how much our kids need us. There's more new schools that are going to be getting a therapy dog, and that is Hinton Area Elementary School. Which is in Summers County, and they'll receive a male Labradoodle real soon. Bridgeview Elementary School in Kanawha County will be receiving a yellow lab, and Oakvale Elementary School in Mercer County will be receiving a male labradoodle. You know, and you know, these are great for our kids, and you know, a companion like that and everything, you know, just a little bit can really change a life. Now, I've got some other announcements, you know, about our DNR stocking. I guess we'll, you know, there's some changes, you know, that we'll be doing some fall stockings here. The upper Guyandotte and the tributaries in Wyoming County, Barkers Creek, and the tributaries in Wyoming County, Elkhorn Creek, and the tributaries in McDowell County were all placed under catch and release regulations. The delayed harvest regulation was modified to be catch and release from November 1st to May 15th, and general regulations from May 16th to October 31st. Delayed harvest sections were established on Paint Creek in Fayette County, Williams River in Pocahontas County, and Shavers Fork in Randolph County. And to learn more about these regulations and everything, you know, get with the DNR, get the information and everything. But trout stockings officially returned last week with 38 or 28 stockings in our streams and lakes and everything. And if you absolutely have missed getting out in West Virginia and enjoying our great waters across West Virginia, and especially enjoying catching a trout, you know, you're really missing something. So I highly encourage you. You talk about something to really change your soul and everything. We have it right here in West Virginia, and you need to take advantage. You know, there's a DOT story this morning. 2 of our DOT employees came to work really early at the Capitol. Nancy Davison and Hope Bailey showed up to work early, around 6 a.m. When they got to Building 5 at the Capitol, they discovered a water leak that had flooded 2 floors. They acted quickly to shut off the leak and everything. Because they were here early, what happened? We saved a lot of money. And we have great employees, just like these 2 absolute wonderful people that absolutely come to work early, work really hard across the state. We thank them over and over and over. I've got some weather updates. We've got a storm warning, you know, that's going across now until 4 o'clock this afternoon with rain and possible hail and damaging winds and the possibility of a couple of even tornadoes. So we've got to really watch and everything. Our Division of Emergency Management is monitoring all this. And right behind that, we're going to have some snow, 1 to 3 inches and everything. So you've got to watch the roads being slick. And I guess the last thing I don't really have anything else. That's all I've got. Nevertheless, I thank you so much. It's a little bit different briefing and everything. Again, you know, we want to keep our thoughts and our prayers for all those that have suffered through COVID and all that we've lost and everything. Thank you so much, and God bless each and every one of you. That's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Governor. We'll now go to questions from members of the media. The first today from Charles Young with WV News.
Hi, this is Charles Young with WV News. Governor, is the goal still to get the PIT down to 0? I know you guys have outlined, you know, the 3 years of this plan. Talk a little bit about your hopes or expectations for the 4th year, given this is implemented.
Well, Charles, absolutely, the goal's 0. You know, and Charles, if I could just walk you through some numbers, and I'm gonna have to do it, you know, just because I don't have the numbers exactly, you know, at my fingertips. But Charles, we have vetted these numbers, and you heard Secretary Hardy over and over. Charles, if you don't factor in, and we did not have a mild recession or significant reductions in energy prices right now, what you'll be doing is you'll be with the current 50% program in full effect, you'll be layering in every year another $750 million of excess and surpluses. That's what we project If you don't have a recession and we don't have a reduction in our energy prices significant, you'll be layering in anywhere from $650 to $780 million a year in surpluses. Then we can do more. And absolutely, Charles, without any question, it goes as simple could be. The faster that we can layer in more in West Virginia and eliminate our personal income tax, absolutely this state will grow in population and grow in business opportunities like you can't imagine. We're absolutely in the right spot. We've got 4 beautiful seasons. People may say, well, you don't have an ocean. And I would say, you're right. We won't have an ocean, but we do not fry eggs on the sidewalk in the middle of the summer either. We have 4 of the most fabulous seasons on the planet. And absolutely, if you look at states like Wyoming, great and beautiful in many ways. Think about how Wyoming is, or was, a week ago when it was 50 below zero. Think about South Dakota and Wyoming and South Dakota growing like crazy. Nevada, my goodness gracious, think about how beautiful our trees and streams are and everything else. And think about Nevada. Absolutely. It's just not Florida, Texas, and Tennessee. It's states that are absolutely growing that don't have anything close to the advantages that we have. Think about how far away Wyoming is from population and how close West Virginia is. So many advantages, so many chances to really, really go, and this is it. But we want to continue on a pathway. We want someday, as soon as possible, we want someday to have our income tax eliminated in West Virginia.
All right, thanks, Charles. Next to Mark Curtis with Nexstar Media.
Good afternoon, Governor and cabinet members and fellow reporters. Governor, let me first pass along a bit of news you may not have heard today. And I know Chelsea's busy having a baby today, but when you call her to congratulate her later, you may want to let her know that Travel Lens magazine, which is a highly respected travel publication in America, came out this morning with its top 10 list of the best national parks in America. The best in America, the top 10 list. Coming in at number 8, the New River Gorge National Park here in West Virginia, which is, of course, is the nation's newest national park. I know she's heavily trying to promote that beautiful property. So to come in at number 8 the first year it was a national park is pretty amazing. So let her know and congratulate her from all of us on her baby, she and Steve. My question is this. The House this morning introduced its tax cut bill, and it just says 10%. And I'm presuming that's just 10% for 1 year, and they'll deal with it next year and the year after in separate bills. That compares to your 50% over 3 years. You always claim to be a numbers guy, and you are. But tell us, is anybody really going to show up and move to West Virginia if the tax just gets cut by 10% over 1 year? Or does it have to have a much bolder and broader stroke like the one you're proposing and perhaps the one the Senate's proposing? Because we don't know what they're going to offer yet.
Well, Mark, I'm not familiar because I've been here doing interview after interview and everything. I don't know about the 10% offering, but our bill will be in House Finance today. I feel like that there's a really good chance that our bill will pass out of House Finance today and go to the floor, and I think you'll see the 50% bill will be passed very soon out of the House. From the standpoint of the Senate, we had a nice breakfast, with Senate President Blair and Chairman Tarr and the Majority Leader Doc Takubo, but we had and as well as all the House members, the Speaker and his team, and all was good, and we had a good productive meeting and everything. I think that the Senate, they promised to review and look at our plan, and from the standpoint of just what we've said many, many times, the Senate, said they want to go bigger. They want to go to 50%. We've done that, and I hope that we'll really move this needle because at the end of the day, Mark, this is our ticket. I mean, say what you want, go to any tax publication, go to anything. I mean, if we want to drive real population to West Virginia and have a real chance of really moving the needle, this is it. This is it right now.
All right, thank you, Mark. Next to Randy Yohe with West Virginia Public Broadcasting. Randy, we're not picking you up there. Can you unmute maybe? Okay, we'll just have to skip Randy. Governor, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, the other thing Mark said, you know, can you imagine the New River National Park? Can you imagine it coming in as the eighth national park or in the country? Can you imagine that? We just started there. I mean, absolutely, the beauty is unparalleled. But we've just started there. And there's so many things, and I congratulate, you know, Secretary Ruby, you know, on all the great work she's done. Hope and pray we'll have a new baby real soon here, and all that will be wonderful, and Mom will be in great shape. Everybody will be great. You know, I hope some way Steve gets through it and everything. But with all that being said, again, many congratulations to all the folks at Tourism and Commerce and DNR and all the different people, you know, because they're making it happen and they're doing great work. We congratulate them, and we won't keep you any longer. I know this is taking a little extra time, and we'll perfect and move along better as we go forward. But thank you so much, and we welcome the media. We welcome all their questions and everything, and maybe this gives you a little bit more insight to all the things that are happening in West Virginia. It's good stuff. Really good stuff. Thank you so much for having us.